Hello guys, this is Amol Khedkar. I welcome you to this video. You might have heard about the GALWAN Valley standoff that is happening right now with India and China. So, I've made a video about, what exactly is the Gilgit-Baltistan region and what is the difference between line of control and line of actual control. But in this video, I will give you the detailed idea about what exactly are the India and China relations for the last 7 decades because right now this is happening in the real time. As you can see, three people were killed by China of India, and there is a whole lot of anti-China sentiment in India right now, and the Chinese newspaper Global Times is also saying that India should back off. So yeah, many things to discuss here, so a lot to learn, a lot to view. So before you guys started, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel because nobody else is doing something like this, and nobody else is going to give you this kind of detailed information on a daily basis of worldwide topics. So if you see all my videos and if you judge for yourself, you will understand that I don't give just the Indian context of things, but the worldwide context of things, because I have lived outside of India for the last 10 years and I've seen almost 20 plus countries. So please don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. So this is from the Print magazine, and you can see a 1954 Panchashil Pact to the Galwan Valley violence, India-China relations in last 7 decades. So Monday night's fatalities due to India-China border tension was the first in 4 decades. So it was the first in 4 decades. Why is this so important? Because it was after a long, long time that India and China were, literally facing off and killing each other. But the two countries have had diplomatic standoffs for over 70 years. So this is the first time that they have actually killed each other, people of each other, since 4 decades. But they have been having this kind of diplomatic standoff for the past 70 years. So you can see Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping in this file photo. Three Indian soldiers, including a commanding officer, were killed in action following a violent face-off with Chinese troops in the Galwan Valley Monday night. The Indian Army has also said that casualties have taken place on both sides. India and China have been involved in a standoff for over a month after China advanced its troops along the LAC and transgressed it at multiple locations. So China has been really acting very, very aggressive in recent times, and not just towards India, but also if you see the South China Sea, and also with Japan and also with America. China has had this kind of aggressive stance for a long time now, and it is really high time that people show China its place. So yeah, I mean, China has been very adamant on many things, and that's why I think right now in the world there are only 4 countries that even have the guts to stand in front of China. I've discussed these 4 countries in my earlier videos. Which are those 4 countries? First is America. Obviously, it's the reigning superpower, so definitely they are going to stand in front of China. Second is Germany. Third is India, and fourth is Japan. These are the only 4 countries that even have the guts to stand in front of China as of now. So Monday night's incident comes amid diplomatic efforts from both nations to de-escalate tensions along the LAC. So there were efforts to de-escalate tensions, but it didn't work, I suppose, and that's why people were killed. These may be the first fatalities in India-China border tension in 4 decades, but the two countries have had diplomatic standoffs due to border disputes for several more years. So why is this so important? Because there was diplomatic standoffs between the two countries, but nobody was killed. Right now, there are 3 people that are killed. The Print brings you a timeline of key events in India-China relations. I've always believed that you can only understand the present only when you understand the history. Okay, so that's why it is very, very important that we understand where we come from and why are we in this situation. And so that's why I will give you the detailed analysis starting from today to going to literally the independence of India. So 15 June 2020, just now, India and China hold diplomatic talks to resolve the military standoff at LAC in Ladakh. 28 May 2020, Minister of External Affairs MEA says it will resolve the border standoff peacefully through dialogue. So this was just 15 days back. They were saying that they are going to resolve this dialogue, this standoff with a peaceful dialogue, and this is the MEA, Minister of External Affairs, saying. 27 May 2020, US President Trump offers to mediate between India and China. So this moronic person, he is just trying to, come in between India and China, but both India and China rejected this proposal, so it doesn't matter anymore. 18 May 2020, India backs the 62 nation coalition's push for a World Health Organization probe into COVID 19's origin, speculated to have begun in China's Wuhan. So yeah, many countries were pointing a finger at China and saying that you did not control the virus. So this happened on 18th May, and India joined these coalition of 62 countries. Late April 2020, India and China engaged in a major border standoff at the LAC in Ladakh in a Doklam-like situation. So I have made a video about this. Go and check that video out. It is on this channel where they literally were in a standoff like Doklam at the line of actual control, which is the LAC. October 2019, Chinese President Xi Jinping visits Mallapuram in Tamil Nadu for an informal visit with Modi. So yeah, this has been happening. Diplomatic relation building has been happening between India and China for a long time. April 2018, PM Modi visits China for his first informal summit with President Jinping at Wuhan, following the Doklam standoff and India's refusal to join the Belt and Road Initiative. So I have made a video on this channel regarding the Belt and Road Initiative and why it is the ultimate game plan of China. Go and watch that video if you don't know what exactly is the One Belt One Road, the OBOR project. So June 2017, India along with Pakistan becomes a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Council (SCO). So the Shanghai Cooperation Council is nothing but an attempt by China to counter the United Nations as an organization. So that's why China was doing this for a long time. They wanted India and Pakistan to become a part of Shanghai Cooperation Council, and ultimately India just said that okay, we'll join it in June 2017. May 2017, India rejects China's invitation to attend the BRI summit in Beijing. So India is still not part of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. So India has rejected in China's invitation to attend the BRI summit in Beijing. So right now, Pakistan is a part of BRI. Even Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, all of them are part of BRI. But India is not a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. India is part of the Shanghai Cooperation Council, but it is not part of the Belt and Road Initiative. June 2017, India-China engaged in a major 73-day border standoff over China's construction of a road in Doklam. Both sides withdraw forces in August. October 2017, PM Modi meets President Jinping on the sidelines of a Goa BRICS summit. There was a summit, the BRICS summit that happened in Goa in India, and so PM Modi and Jinping, they met on the sidelines of it. January 2015, US President Barack Obama visits India on Republic Day. Following a long meeting with Modi, a joint statement is released in which both premiers mention their mutual concerns about China's expansion in the South China Sea. So yeah, China has been doing this for a long time. This is not something new. So China has been expanding in the South China Sea, in the Ladakh region, in the Senkaku Islands with Japan, and also with America. So China is really aggressive on many fronts. November 2014, Ajit Doval is appointed National Security Advisor and a Special Representative for India-China boundary negotiations. Earlier in the month, Jinping had invited Modi to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC summit in Beijing, but the PM declined the offer and traveled to Fiji, Australia and Myanmar instead. So yeah, the diplomatic scuffle has been happening between the two countries. September 2014, Chinese troops reportedly entered 2 kilometers inside the LAC in Chumar sector, leading to heightened tensions between India and China. July 2014, Modi meets Jinping for the first time along the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Brazil. April, so because right that at that time Modi got elected in May of 2014, I think, right? So that's why Modi and Jinping met for the first time in July of 2014. April 2013, Indian and Chinese forces have a 3-week-long standoff at Depsang Plain in eastern Ladakh. Chinese forces had crossed into Indian territory and pitched tents to assert their control over the area. October 2009, so now we go literally 10 years back. China objects PM Manmohan Singh's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. So if you don't know, Arunachal Pradesh is still now a disputed region. So if you go on the maps of any of the world organizations like WHO or United Nations, you will find that Arunachal Pradesh is signified with a dotted line. Why is that? Because both India and China lay claim to Arunachal Pradesh. That's why China objects the then PM of India Manmohan Singh's visit to Arunachal Pradesh, which just doesn't make any sense because obviously Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India, so no Indian citizen should need the permission of China to go to Arunachal Pradesh, but China objected at that point in October 2009. Then May 2007, China denies visa to Arunachal Pradesh CM Dorji Khandu, arguing that the state isn't part of Chinese territory. So China denies visa to Arunachal Pradesh CM Dorji Khandu, arguing that the state is a part of Chinese territory. So China still considers Arunachal Pradesh and the Ladakh region, the Aksai Chin region as a part of it. So that's why it denied the visa to this person, because they were saying that you are part of China itself. July 2006, the Nathula Pass between Sikkim and Tibet is reopened for trade after 44 years. The Nathula Pass, which is between Sikkim and Tibet, is reopened to trade after 44 years. China has been laying its claim on Sikkim as well for a long time. So, the opening of this pass in July 2006 was really a very important thing, and it reopened after 44 years. The Nathula Pass, which is a very prominent pass. 2005, visiting Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao supports India's bid for a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. In 2005, the Chinese Premier was Wen Jiabao, and that guy supported India's bid for a UN Security Council in 2005. 2004, Chinese Foreign Ministry's annual yearbook no longer figures Sikkim as an independent nation. So as I said, China has been aggressive in these kind of regions for a long time. In 2004, Chinese Foreign Ministry's annual yearbook no longer figures Sikkim as an independent nation. So it no longer features Sikkim as an independent nation. It considers Sikkim as a part of China. That's what it means in 2004. So China has been doing this for the last 15-20 years now. Nothing new here. 2003, tensions between both the nations over status of Tibet and Sikkim de-escalate after a landmark visit by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee to China. So the then Prime Minister of India, Vajpayee, visited China in 2003 to de-escalate the tensions regarding Tibet and Sikkim. March 2002, the Indian and Chinese governments agree in Beijing to accelerate the pace of LAC delineation with the intention of resolving their border disputes within a reasonable time frame. January 2002, Chinese Premier Zhu Rongji visits India. April 2000, India and China commemorate 50 years of their diplomatic relations. So in April 2000, India and China commemorate 50 years of their diplomatic relations, right from 1950 to 2000. So, if you don't know how the Chinese history works, China had this kind of cultural revolution which was initiated by Mao Zedong, and that's why 1950 to 2000 were the 50, important years for China, because even China was under, Japanese control and many other powers control before 1947. 22 February 2000, India and China signed a bilateral trade agreement to make way for the latter's early entry into the World Trade Organization. So India and China signed a bilateral trade agreement to make way for the latter's, like China's entry into the World Trade Organization. So China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. And that is a very, very important event. If you are fond of geopolitics, China joining the World Trade Organization in 2001 is an extremely important event. 31st January 2000, Chinese army builds a permanent road network and sets up bunkers 5 kilometers in the Indian side of the LAC and Aksai Chin area of Ladakh. 14 January 2000, India officially declares to China that the 17th Karmapa has arrived in Dharamshala but has not been granted refugee status. 11 January 2000, Beijing warns New Delhi that giving political asylum to Karmapa would violate the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence between India and China. So this all relates to the Tibet dispute. So if you know, the Dalai Lama has been living in India in exile for the past many years, and that's why Beijing warns in New Delhi in 2000 that giving political asylum to Karmapa would violate the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, so like the Panchashil agreement between India and China. 7 January 2000, 17th Karmapa flees China and arrives in Dharamshala to join the Dalai Lama. November 1999, India and China hold detailed discussions on ways to settle border disputes. June 1999, China talks about being neutral in the Kargil conflict and agrees to establish a security mechanism with India. If you know, I was in India at that time. The Kargil conflict was a very important thing which happened in like 1999-2000 time, and China talks about being neutral in the Kargil conflict. So it was between India and Pakistan along the line of control, and China says that it is neutral in the Kargil conflict and agrees to establish a security mechanism with India. 14 May 1998, China strongly condemns India's second nuclear test in Pokhran. So India conducted its second nuclear test in Pokhran in 1998 and China condemns it. Why? Because China feels it as a threat, because any country that has a nuclear power is definitely feared by the rest of the world. 1996, Chinese President Jiang Zemin visits India and both nations agree to reduce troops on the disputed border areas. August 1995, the Chinese and Indian authorities agree to pull back their troops in the Samdorong Chu Valley in eastern sector, which was the site of the 1987 border clash between the two sides. September 1993, Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao visits China and the two sides sign an agreement on border peace and tranquility. 1991, Chinese Premier Li Peng leaves India after a milestone visit, the first by Chinese diplomat in over 3 decades. So this is where all these things started. In 1991, when India was liberalized, Chinese Premier Li Peng leaves India after a milestone visit, the first by Chinese diplomat in over 3 decades. 1988, the then PM of India, Rajiv Gandhi, visits China. Both countries signed an agreement to establish a joint working group on boundary settlement and a joint group on economic relations, trade, science, and technology. 1986, Beijing strongly objects to India's decision to make Arunachal Pradesh a state. So in 1986, India made Arunachal Pradesh a state. So Beijing strongly objects to India's decision to make Arunachal Pradesh a state in 1986. I was not even born back then. In 1984, India and China signed the Most Favored Nation Trade Agreement. So there is this trade agreement between India and China called the Most Favored Nation. February 1979, Vajpayee, then Foreign Minister, visits China. So in 1979, Vajpayee was the Foreign Minister of India. He visited China in 1979 in February of that year. April 1976, India and China restore full diplomatic ties after a 15-year hiatus. October 1975, Chinese forces cross over into Indian territory in Arunachal Pradesh, Tulungla, and ambush a patrol of Assam Rifles Jawans, killing 4 of them. In 1975, Chinese forces cross over into Indian territory in Arunachal Pradesh, Tulungla, and ambush a patrol of Assam Rifles Jawans, killing 4 of them. April 1975, China condemns the merger of Sikkim with India. So Sikkim is a very recent state that joined the Union of India. So if you don't know the history of Sikkim, I will also made a video about how exactly Sikkim got into India. So in April 1975, China condemns the merger of Sikkim with India. In May 1974, China criticizes India's first nuclear test in Pokhran. April 1970, Indian and Chinese diplomats establish formal contacts. 1967, Indian and Chinese forces have border clashes in Nathula, leading to the death of estimated 80 Indian and 400 Chinese soldiers. 2nd March 1963, China and Pakistan sign a boundary settlement in which Pakistan cedes 5,000 square kilometers of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to China. So this is the Trans-Karakoram Tract. If you don't know, so China and Pakistan signed a boundary settlement in 1963 in which Pakistan cedes almost 5,000 square kilometers of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to China. 21st November 1962, China declares a unilateral ceasefire and withdraws its forces to position them 20 kilometers behind the LAC. This is the India-China War of 1962. China declares a unilateral ceasefire and withdraws its forces to position them 20 kilometers behind the line of actual control. October-November 1962, India and China engage in a border war with several small clashes over the disputed Aksai Chin and border areas in Arunachal Pradesh after Beijing stages a massive attack. The war led to 722 Indian and 1383 Chinese casualties. So the famous Indian War of 1962. India and China engage in a border war with several small clashes over the disputed Aksai Chin and border areas in Arunachal Pradesh after Beijing stages a massive attack. So Beijing started the attack and India just retaliated. The war led to 722 Indian and 1383 Chinese casualties. So Chinese casualties were literally double of what Indian casualties were. April 1960, Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai and PM Jawaharlal Nehru hold a meeting to address boundary questions, but it ends in a deadlock. Even in 1960, Zhou Enlai is a very important person in Chinese politics. If you don't know about this guy, I will make a video about it. And PM Jawaharlal Nehru hold a meeting to address boundary questions, but it ends in a deadlock. 8 September 1959, China refuses to accept the McMahon Line. McMahon Line is also a very important concept in the Kashmir conflict, with Zhou Enlai claiming that Beijing was not a signatory to the 1842 British India and China Peace Treaty. January 1959, Zhou Enlai spells out China's claim over 40,000 square miles of Indian territory in Ladakh and the Northeast Frontier Agency. 15 May 1954, Zhou Enlai visits India. He and Nehru signed the Panchashil Pact, the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. So that's why the title of this video is, from Panchashil to right now. So this Panchashil Pact was signed in 1954 between Zhou Enlai, the then Premier of China, and Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister of India, which is called the Panchashil Pact, which has the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence between India and China. 7 October 1950, Chinese troops crossed the Sino-Tibetan boundary and moved towards Lhasa to occupy Tibet. So Tibet was occupied by China in 1950 because Chinese troops crossed the Sino-Tibetan boundary and moved towards Lhasa to occupy Tibet. Lhasa is the capital of Tibet, and that's why the Free Tibet movement is something that India supports, and that's why the Dalai Lama of Tibet is now living in India in exile. December 1949, India becomes the second non-communist regime to recognize People's Republic of China. 1949, India becomes the second non-communist regime to recognize the People's Republic of China. So there were very few countries at that time that even recognized China as an independent country. Because if you know how the Chinese Civil War unfolded, Taiwan or China, people still consider, some of the countries still consider Taiwan as the real China, and they don't consider the real China as the real China. So I have also made a video about it. It's on my channel to to explain to you how exactly do China and Taiwan relate with each other. So this was the 7 decades of history between India and China. So why I made this video is because it is very important for us to understand where we come from. So if you are a citizen of India, or if you are a person of Indian origin who is living anywhere else in the world, it is very important to understand where we come from, so that we can understand what exactly is happening right now. So yeah, there are many clashes happening in India and China border. So right now, as you know, 3 people were killed between India and China. So it is very important for us to understand what history we come from. So I will stop talking here. If you like my analysis of this video, of this article, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like these. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.